Hey, what's going on? Welcome to our first AngularAir episode of 2019. I'm your host, Justin Schwarzenberger, and today's episode, we are going to be checking out the Angular CDK and doing drag and drop with it. Everybody's most fun thing to do in the world is drag and drop, right? At least some go. But now we don't really have to. We have this framework that allows us to get all the core stuff done for us, and we can just have fun with it. So why don't we kick things off? Today we've got our guest is also one of our panelists. So they will be a ghoulist, copyright Jeff Cross. I think I need to say copyright Jeff Cross. I mean, he came up with the term.
Oh,
I don't know
he did, didn't he?
Legal ramification. I don't know. But anyways, thanks, Jeff Cross. So we got this ghoulist today. But first, let's say hi to our other panelist, Mike Brocky. What's going on, Mike?
What's going on? Happy New Year. A little bit delayed and late, but that's okay. I got to be in before the end of the year, so.
There you go. And it's still the month of January, so there's that too, right?
You got what in before the end of the year?
The Happy New Year. I got one in for 2019. So
I gotcha. I'm with you.
I'm all set. Check that off the bucket list.
Right. Was that your only New Year's resolution, was to get that in before the end of the year? Because if so, you're 100%. You're done.
Yeah. I'm going to take 2019 off, so.
Awesome.
I'll see you guys later.
You'll still be here for other shows, right?
Yeah, I'll probably come back.
All right, cool. All right, our guest today, Alyssa Nicoll. Alyssa, what's going on?
Hey, glad to be here. I've been working on, as Justin said, some drag and drop stuff because first of all, I saw all of the fun new things CDK offered in Angular 7, and I wanted to give them a try. And so when we were thinking about episodes, I thought it'd be fun. It might not be super long, but it might be fun to walk through how I implemented that in a to-do app that's using Kendo UI. So, yeah, that's what my plan is today. Hopefully it goes.
I like it. I like it. So we'll get a little bit of CDK, a little drag and drop, and a little Kendo UI. That'll be
yes.
Nice. Very cool. Very cool. All right. Well, you want to get started?
Yeah. Do I take it over or do you give it to me? I always forget.
You go ahead and share your screen and then let me know you're sharing your screen, and then I will present to everyone.
Okay, I'm sharing.
All right.
And
presenting to everyone. And
awesome.
As you're getting set up, so you mentioned things change with version 7. For some reason, I'm remembering that drag and drop came before version 7. Is that true, or am I imagining things?
That's a really good question. Did you guys? I have no idea. Did it come before?
I'll tell you. You get started. I'll go check the change log.
Okay, you go look at that, because I know whenever they listed out like the features, the drag and drop module was one of them that you're talking about, but maybe it was just polished in 7. I'm not sure. But yes, Brocky will let us know. So this is the app that we're working in. Maybe
before we start, we need to just give a quick little refresher of what the CDK is. So in case our viewers don't know, we can just give a quick little word.
Okay, so what does the acronym stand for?
I believe it's
Kit, Dev Kit? Okay, Component Dev Kit. And so I would love to talk about the relationship between the CDK and material, because I'm kind of always confused when like people talk about them. They kind of make them sound like they're one thing, but as I'm playing with the CDK, I feel like they're not. Because like, for instance, with this project, we just npm installed at Angular/CDK. And so obviously we don't need material at all. So it's like a whole separate thing, but it's kind of under the material blanket. Do either of you understand that?
I do now. Thank you.
Okay. So I feel like it kind of branched off from material as this dev kit of these like components that you can use in your project. But I honestly don't know as far as like anything else besides the relationship. So let me know if that's not the tab we want.
I think it's go ahead, Mike.
I've confirmed by looking through the changelog, it was released in version 7.0.0 entitled Amethyst Ammonite.
Ooh, all right. The drag and drop was entitled that, or the release was entitled
the
that?
Release that drag and drop was included. Sorry.
You goofballs.
Okay. And just let me check real quick, Alyssa. Are we going to refer to it as drag and drop the whole episode, or are we going to go with D&D for it?
Oh, let's go with D&D, although you might anger the D&D fans in the world. But no, I love D&D. So are we ready to jump in? Mike, are you good? I can see your faces, so I don't know if you're smiling.
So we talked about how we're going to name this and refer to this. Every time I hear drag and drop, I think of dragon drop.
Drag and drop. Yeah, I think they really missed out there, actually.
Yeah, dropping dragons. Okay, so then based on what you were just saying too about the CDK and materials, that this drag and drop functionality you're going to be playing with is going to be just like the logic for doing the drag and drop, right? And not necessarily the visuals of the of material, the look. So you're
right. Well, especially with this one, I think some of their other ones might have material look, but I'm using Kendo UI components. Like, these are buttons, but then I also customize them with my own CSS styles because I wanted this fun like rainbow effect as you go down the list. It reminded me of Clear. I don't know if you guys have ever used that app. It's like a to-do list app on my iPhone. And so I wanted to kind of mimic that in a to-do app when I built it. And so the CDK, at least with the drag and drop module, yeah, it doesn't have, we're actually going to be using directives onto our existing elements. So yeah, so this is the to-do list. And as you click through, you can go ahead and cross out, or I guess remove them from. And this action, it used to be on the whole button or the whole to-do item, but I actually moved it to just the words because I knew I was going to go ahead and add in drag and drop. And so if you'd imagine, as you click to go ahead and start dragging, it would call the remove event, and so that was obviously no good. So
I want to make a point about that real quick. It's a little nuanced thing, right? But a lot of times I've discovered it before when I dive into doing drag and drop stuff. Like, these are the things that you kind of discover as you get in there. All of a sudden, like, I need a place to grab it and drag it, but I also need a place to click it and do some other things.
Yeah, it was it was instantly, because I want to actually shout out to their docs, because these are like the most enjoyable docs. And what I mean by that is, as I was reading through getting started and using it, I would have a question. And so I would be like, oh no, like, what happens when this happens, or why isn't this working? And I would scroll down and the very next paragraph would answer that. And I was like, whoa, it's like there's a fortune teller on their team. So it was just really a pleasant experience. So if you haven't checked out Material or CDK's docs, I've been blown away with the awesomeness of them. I don't know if you guys know who's behind them, but shout out to that person.
I fully agree that they have all the examples that, like you're saying, like you keep going down and all of a sudden,
and then it's just like, here's the code, and yeah, it's so nice. So I wanted to show right quick. So this is inside of my to-do app. And I didn't commit the latest one. I will, and I'll put up the GitHub link in the show notes when we're done. But I wanted to show you like what lines have basically or will be changed once we're done. But this is the to-do app, and inside of here, I'm using a Kendo button that, of course, I'm adding my own custom flair and styles to. Shout out to SCSS, but I just like raised my hand and realized my camera's off. But this is just me basically going through, and I made a little for loop, and basically I'm changing the background color slightly based on the index that the item is in the loop. So what this means is, as you drag and drop, the colors will change. So I don't really do that.
And is that that's SCSS right there, right? That for loop, is that correct?
Yes. It's just using some SCSS to do some magic. And honestly, I love Sass. So I sometimes tend to be a bit too heavy on the Sass things. But and there's animations, of course, as you see, like when we add in something, I'm using Angular animations to do that. And so I would definitely check out the GitHub later on, since we won't be necessarily diving into the animations. But that is all obviously going to be in the animations.ts file. And so I've got like a slide in and a slide out that I've built. And I kind of explained them a little bit in there. So, but yeah, so the first thing that we did, as I mentioned, was we went ahead and installed the Angular CDK, which I've already done, but I will clear this and say, just show that quick line. So it was literally just Angular/CDK. And so once I had that installed, the next step was to open up the app module and import the drag and drop module. And so that was done on line 23, as you can see. And as simple as that, you're ready to go ahead and start using these directives. And so the first directive is called CDK Drag. And so these are obviously the items we would like to drag, and these are called like the buttons. So I literally will just add a CDK Drag onto the button. And so if we go back, should refresh, we are able, I mean, it's not like, whenever I was playing with it, I was like, okay, wait, what? Because obviously it gives us the ability to drag, but you know, they're kind of like not where they should be. I don't know. This could maybe be a feature at some point in somebody's life. I don't know. But the next point in what I was saying, you know, when I kept reading through the docs, it was obviously talking about drop list. And so there's CDK drag and there's also CDK drop list, which provides you with the area that the things you're dragging need to plop into. And so I literally just did that on my div wrapper here, and I added the drop list directive. And so if we go back over, they should be nicely staying inside of the list. But if you'll notice, like, okay, so right animation stock is on the bottom, and if I drag it all the way up to the top, it still stays at the bottom. And I was like, oh, okay, so it's kind of like, it looks like it's dropping it, and then it's like resetting. And so what's happening here is that our data model is not persisting. And so a super easy next step, and I want to show this in the, yes, I believe this is under the reordering list section. So they talk about this CDK drop list dropped event that you can go ahead and use. And so if we head back on over to me codes, what we're going to do, I want to write the method first. Close out these buds. I want to write out the method first, which I already did, and show you that, and then we'll go ahead and attach it to that event. So I called it ReorderList. I guess you'd call it drop or whatever you'd like. And basically ReorderList is taking in this event from the drag and drop. And we're going to go ahead and call this move item in array, which is coming from the CDK. And we're passing it our to-dos list and the previous index and the current index. And so it just needs those three items for move item in array to work. And so we're going to go back over to our HTML, and we need to, basically we need to call the reorder list method. So we're going to say, hey, on the CDK drop list dropped event, when that fires, I want you to call reorder list. Not list, holes. And then we're passing it $event. And so as simple as that, watch it not work. Right animation should now, oh no, pickles on a stick. Of course I messed up. All right, let me check what I did wrong. Did I, reorder list, CDK drop list. Did I spell dropped wrong? No. Drop list.
Reorder list?
Yeah, you reordered the list, which is very different.
Why do I do these things? Reordering my list, you guys. How did you see that also? Like, you're like Hawkeyes? That's amazing. I was looking at the same line that you were. And yet, okay. So yes, so pack for Denver all the way to the bottom. Pack for Denver in the middle. And so yeah, it's now reordering our list. It makes me so happy. I'll stop now to take a drink of coffee and let you guys say anything if you want at this point, and then I have a little bit more to go.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I want to say something. So this is very clean, the way that this was implemented by the team, in that what they've done is via a directive, they've attached an DOM event, whether or not like the standard ones from a normal DOM, like a click event. They just added an event that says that something was dropped and allows you to do what you want with that. So that's a kind of like how the CDK functions in general, in that we're just going to expose something and provide you some hooks and what have you, and a very straightforward API to be able to do things that you want to do, whether or not it's dragging something somewhere else on the screen, just letting your button sit anywhere, or by adding additional directives, additional behaviors. So it's very clean and allows you to do what you want with it.
So I have a question on the list. So maybe we go back into the code.
Absolutely.
Let me do this.
Okay.
So in the, I think in the TypeScript file where you have that function to reorder the list.
Yes. Do you see it?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, awesome.
So the CDK drag drop type that's in there in the reorder list signature, function signature, right, is taking a generic of an array of strings. So I'm assuming, is it correct that you can then type that to whatever your objects are that you want to have in your list? So if you actually have a, you know, I don't know, show object type, then you could use that.
Oh no, absolutely. And I just haven't played around. I didn't even get that far. I was still playing with the drag and drop parts. But no, you're right. I should be able to, for like whatever your type is.
So I like this. It's a very clean implementation. However, you are calling this function called move item in array. Where does that come from?
So that is actually from the CDK. And let me go and show you. Let's see, it's going to be over here. So this is in their drop event, the same with the move item in array. And I'm trying to think of where it would be in their notes, because I know it's coming from.
Yeah, I see the import there on their second line.
Yeah, I was going to show that. So it is coming from them because we had to import it from them, but I don't know where in the docs it would go further.
No, that's okay. But so just to be clear, you're just changing the in-memory array, which is great, and it provides that functionality. But if this is something where you're reordering a to-do list, you would want to persist that
right, absolutely,
to your back end, but you have to handle that. The drag and drop isn't going to go reach into your back end and sort that into your data store.
That would kind of be terrifying if it did, but
yeah, agreed.
But still, it is pretty cool that it provides that helper function as part of the library. So not only is it handling like the complexity of drag and drop with the DOM, right, but it also provides these additional things for.
Oh no, I've actually been really impressed, because not only like does it offer this, but it offers ways to attach data or to drag and drop like from one list to a different list, or even to like customize, because you know how we're talking about the drag area. And I thought this was really cool. It's like at the very bottom, I think. They talk about customizing the drag area using a handle. And I feel like they just kind of thought of everything. So basically, you know, I could add this handle to like one side of my notes, and then everything except for that could be the remove to do item event. And then just the handle is for dragging and dropping. And so it does feel very polished. I like that. So.
For sure.
So one of the last things I wanted to show was the animation. So right now when we drag and drop, it's kind of like merp. I don't know, like it's not sexy. And of course
it's very merp.
It's very merp. And they have a couple of basically classes. So actually, let's go back up to styling real quick. So they have these classes that are being added to elements at different like moments in time. And then in addition to that, they're also actually adding like transforms, but all you have to do is go ahead and tack on the transition. And so let me just show you what I mean by that real quick. So this is the animation as they're being sorted that's being added to the drag element. And so in our case, that would be the buttons. And so if you go ahead and add this transition and we go back, it should look a little different. just like a little bit smoother. Like I don't know, it might not come across on the screen sharing. So feel free to pull down and ngServe this up and play around with it, because that's one of my favorite things, is to kind of comment out animations and see what they're really doing. So I'm not sure if it is coming across the wire, but it's just a little bit of polish. But again, it's because the CDK is adding first the classes and then the transforms that we're able to go ahead and transition those transforms when we want. So yes, that was.
I like that. It kind of adds on to what I was talking about earlier of the idea of layering, how the API is very straightforward, but at the same time very powerful to give you granular control without having to worry about all the inner workings of the events.
Yeah, honestly, it gets me really excited for the other things in the CDK. I think the other one I wanted to try out and play with was like virtual scrolling. I don't have any, like right now, I don't have, for instance, I would never add virtual scrolling to like this because it's not, I don't think anyone's to-do list should ever get big enough, hopefully, to need virtual scrolling. I guess maybe if it was like a GitHub issues type to-do list or something, but I definitely, you're right. It makes me excited to go ahead and try out the other things that the CDK offers because of how just well thought out it was and easy to use. So
those two are really exciting for me because I've built those things before, and it's a challenge, right? To build
you really have so you've just like built out your own drag and drop from scratch.
Yeah. I'm kind of old, so I've had an opportunity to do that back in the day. But
That's
yeah,
awesome.
It's yeah. There's a lot of things to consider. Like even just in the beginning when you're talking about the nuances of where you grab and do you need drag handle, that sort of thing, to dragging into different target zones. Can you drop from one area to another? To what if they drag off the browser and on, and all kinds of things, right? And in looking at the CDK and the drag and drop offerings that they have, like you two were mentioning, it seems to cover a lot of those bases, right? Which is huge benefit for us as developers. And same way with the virtual scrolling, another subject, another thing that's like immensely challenging to build. To have that in your toolbox is great.
One thing that was brought up earlier in the chat was the idea of supporting mobile, and it was more so the behaviors of scrolling off screen. But what I'm curious about is touch support with mobile. Does it support drag and drop with not just the mouse, but also via touch? Because I would imagine if this was in a mobile view and you wanted to scroll and not so much reorder, how those behaviors intermingled, or if it gave you control to be able to differentiate between the two or decide how to handle those.
No, that's a really excellent question. And I wonder, since we are exposed to these events, I wonder if it's not built in already, if it wouldn't be too difficult to go ahead and add them yourself. Like, since you have the events that need to fire, and then you can go ahead and attach data to them if you need. So it's like, I feel like if it's not already, I'm not seeing it in the docs. Do either of you know if they cover the mobile case?
I don't know. It was just a question that popped in my head. Or maybe potentially in the API because if they're controlling the mouse down, the mouse up, and the mouse move, and all of those different coordination of those events, are they then doing that combined for the touch down, touch up, and those events, and whether or not they give you control of which of those they actually are listening to? Is your machine touchscreen? You could try it out, or no?
Oh no, is yours? Are you on a Pixel or something?
I am not.
Okay, I do have my Pixel, but I don't have it running all my projects just yet. I'm pretty bad when it comes to resetting up environments. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah. But no, I could always pull it up on my phone.
So you mentioned you had some Kendo UI stuff in there. Did you want to touch a little bit on that?
Yeah, it was basically just the see, I can show again if you want. Since it was a super simple to do app, I didn't go crazy on the Kendo UI stuff, but I was just using their button to go ahead and create this element. So if we go back to the code here, it's just using Kendo button here. And so that was just the basis of it. It's not super heavy on the Kendo, but yes, I was using it to go ahead and create these buttons initially, and then I added some custom styling to them, as we saw with the colors. But that was something that I was really excited about, because no diss to Bootstrap, because I know so many people are in love with Bootstrap. But whenever I've had to, because my last job, a lot of my job was, hey, we need it to look or feel like this, or we need to add this feature. And there would be a lot of times when Angular wasn't the sore subject. It was Bootstrap, and running into an issue where it was like an override tree, basically. And so using Kendo UI has just been so fun for the fact that I've never needed to use important tags, which is kind of a sore subject for me. Like, if it comes down to it, obviously you use more and more specificity whenever you're wanting to, add flair to something, or you want to customize it a little bit. But, I literally just called out button, and which buttons am I talking about? I'm talking about my class of to-do buttons, and I gave it these styles. And so I just love that I didn't need to use important tags, and I found that a lot with Kendo UI Elements, which is, for anybody in the audience who doesn't know, that is where I am working currently, is as an advocate for the Angular side of Kendo UI. So that's been really fun discovering that over this past year, because I've worked with not just Bootstrap, but other CSS frameworks that can be a bit messier, I guess. So yes, I think.
Cool. And so then Kendo UI provides like a component and kit sort of deal?
Yeah. So Kendo UI is just UI components that you can use, very similar to Material. We are a bit more, I think we're more robust in the fact that not only do we have just so many components, but we also have them for jQuery, React, and Vue. And I think Vue is the only one. So originally, like back in the day when Kendo UI started, they were all like jQuery components. And when they're like, hey, we should do them for Angular, or we should do them for React, they had these, like, they were wrappers, right, around the components that kind of use the exact same jQuery component inside of an Angular app. But now all of the React and Angular ones are native. And so, like, they're written for Angular apps in Angular. And I think the only ones that we're still behind on is Vue, that we're getting caught up on. And so that's been really fun. I know we also have, I really feel bad because I always rep like the JavaScript side, but I know we also have like .NET awesomeness. And then of course not on my specific team, but a sister team is the NativeScript team, which everyone, shout out to NativeScript. But so we have tons of awesome things. So I'd head over to the Kendo UI library if you want to check it out at Progress. But yeah, so this one was super simple, but I really love the chance to get to play around with the CDK Drag and Drop.
Very cool. Yeah, I used the Kendo UI stuff back in the day with the jQuery and the .NET and stuff like that. So,
did you used to do .NET?
Oh yeah, lots of .NET. Lots of a little fun fact. I used to have a blog called I Want My MVC, and I did .NET MVC stuff back
then. Do you miss it? Are you so sad? You're like a front end, or not front end, but you're like a JavaScript web dude now, right? Or not really? Or would you still consider yourself?
Once I don't know, when you start way back in the day when everything was like full stack and everything and server, you kind of never leave that. Once the word's out, right, that they know that you can do all that stuff. And
you're saying there's no hope for you.
So, I can't change what I have become, I guess. I don't know.
Mike, have you always been web? Or did you ever do other?
I followed a very similar path to Justin. I was also a .NET developer.
Oh,
but I just looked up I Want My MVC. Do you have a Twitter handle for that?
No, hey, I guess anybody can take that over now or whatever.
There is an @I Want My MVC on Twitter.
Justin, is this your like anonymous, like when you don't want to tweet as yourself?
FYI, I do not control that, so I don't know what content goes through that, but it's not me.
It's not me.
Hey, all right, we have anything else on the CDK or the drag and drop or anything? Or
no, but I did want to mention that I'm publishing a blog like today or tomorrow, a blog post about it, and I'll attach it to the show notes once we have the official link. So if watching through the video or scrubbing through isn't your style, I'll have the code listed out there with all of my cool findings and anything else that I discover before then. So. And I'm going to try to answer the mobile question in the blog. So
nice. Now I have some details to dive into right here at the end. I want to get to. One is I want to know, and hopefully the viewers want to know this too. What theme are you rocking on VS Code? Because I'm really digging that purple.
Oh. Let's see. How do we find themes again? It's been so long. Is it like Command
Shift P or something?
Yeah, and then theme, or you might need to go to the. I don't know. I'll tell you exactly. If you go to underneath code is preferences, and it's Command KT.
KT, what is that shortcut?
The keyboard shortcut for color theme.
Well, that brought it up too, but also the looking for themes with the Command P, was it? Yeah. It's Quiet Light is the name of it.
But it's a light theme.
I don't know how you guys do dark themes. They just make me feel all grumpy. It's like I'm working in a tunnel or something. I don't like it.
I like the look of that one. That was fresh. I like it.
Thank you.
Okay, so second little bit of detail. MERP. Is it MERP with a U, like I just let out a big MERP? Or is it MERP with an E, like Wyatt MERP?
Are you talking about like the sound effect or the?
Like how do you spell it? Like when you said MERP.
MERP is like MERP. It's kind of like it's when your computer kind of hiccups and you're like, whoa, that was glitchy. Kind of like that, but for like humans, like.
All right. So basically like Wyatt MERP.
Who is this Wyatt and what does he do?
I don't know, but his last name was Earp and it had an E in it. And so
okay. I understand.
Whatever. I don't know.
I want to talk a little bit more about drag and drop.
Tell us, Mike. Tell us your drag and drop theories.
No, I don't have theories. I have questions.
Oh.
So, but it's more so the mindset of when you would want to be able to use it. I know you talked and showed about the idea of reordering, and I think that's a really good use case. But I think there's sometimes when drag and drop makes sense as a user experience, but sometimes where it's just like, I didn't really want that thing to move when I was using it.
Mm-hmm. I was using it.
No, I mean, if you're on a site and you're like, well, I really would prefer to click a button to perform an action versus reordering. Like maybe if you're on a retail site where you might be able to click on something to add it to a cart versus the idea of dragging it into a shopping cart.
Oh yeah, especially on mobile. I feel like you have to be careful with. I feel like drag and drop maybe makes sense in games, but like for something like that with the shopping cart, I don't think it would be expected behavior, and I think it would throw people off if all of a sudden, like you're saying, I wanted to click into an item, but all of a sudden, like it's attached, and I'm like, oh gosh, what did I just do? Why did I just move that? Like if you could rearrange the items in like a shopping list or something, like that would be.
Well, I kind of like that idea of
really?
as long as you have to have the visual association with it, like the idea of you showed the drag handle. So whether or not there's a resize or maybe some sort of icon or some sort of visual indicator to say, hey, you know what, I can be dragged.
No, that's a good idea. I think so. I really wish I could show off Clear. Let me see if there's a web app because
there is not, if I remember correctly,
okay.
A while back.
Because it's very similar to my to-do list, and they have different themes for the gradients that go down your to-do list. But one of the what is it called when it's basically like hidden usability, right? So like it doesn't have the anchor telling you that. But like it's just kind of expected. You look at I don't know how, but you look at this list and you expect to be able to reorder your shopping list or whatever it is. And so as you press down, you can grab and drag it up or down. And so I just for me personally, it's like a hidden usability thing. It really reminded me of Snapchat, honestly. I don't know if either of you have played around with Snapchat lately, but I did a lot of youth ministries in Orlando, and I'd watch my high schoolers and they'd be playing around with Snapchat and they would teach me, and they'd be like, oh, if you swipe over and then press this thing. And I'm like, that panel exists. Like, I was so amazed. And I worry sometimes that, like, maybe we're old school wanting our drag handles and everything's moving to, like, this weird expected behavior that I don't know about and I need the dictionary for it. Like, but I don't know if you've experienced that with apps, but.
Same exact experience when my kids have used Snapchat on my phone. I'm like, wait, what? I don't understand that.
And I just want to take a survey so badly as like the UX person in me is like, okay, but how did you learn that? Was it through, like safe exploration and discovery that you found out that that panel existed by swiping left? So there's no indicator whatsoever ever at any time. So, or did your friends tell you? Or was there a tutorial I missed? Like, how do you all seem to know this, but I don't? So.
Yeah, I think it's a thing that can play into that joy of discovery, right? And that fun of using an app that you could layer on to your app to give that feeling of, okay, I enjoy. It's like, they talk about like the Twitter like, and you click on the heart and it explodes instead of just highlights. It's that kind of thing that you could look at leveraging drag and drop for those sort of things. But I think you could also do things like let's say you had a product in a shopping site or app or whatever, and you had maybe colors that you could, like, take the shoes for example, and you could customize the colors and the soles or something. And so you may have like multiple things you want to drop onto the main thing instead of like clicking the one to view it in a preview. And so now you can kind of mix and match multiple things onto one to do it that. Or take an example like TweetDeck, or one of our viewers mentioned in the chat, Trello, where you can drag cards to different columns, like that. Like certainly a use case scenario. I think Trello is a good one because I don't think that you see a handle right off the bat. I think you just inherently kind of go through the thought process. I could drag this card, especially if you're thinking like agile and sprint development. So you just go and try it and then it works, right? But solutions like that, it's those sort of things.
Oh, let me show this real quick on the screen, because I found a quick GIF of that. Let me share of the Trello boards that you're talking about, but then also there's two other use cases for drag and drop, which I love. So I don't know if you can see, I can get it bigger. But so it doesn't seem that there is an indicator, but maybe the cursor is enough of an indicator, like the type of cursor. If you have the hand, that was something that I used in mine, was like the grabby hand. But there's also, I didn't even think about it, but tabs, obviously, like dragging and dropping tabs on your browser. And then of course in email, like you can drag over to different categories or inboxes, which I guess that saves time, because instead of like having to click up here, like you're selecting multiple and then having to go to where do you want to plop it. So it's like less interaction maybe to dragging. I'm not sure. But no, I thought the Trello board was a really good idea. Oh, sorry. I made the Infinity Justin, the Infinity Justin attack.
But I think all those things weigh into a bigger discussion that is the importance of user experience. A lot of times people make the mistake of assuming that UX is just UI, and it's not. It's about how people are going to interact with it, not just what it's going to look like. Sure, there's some overlap there that in terms of identifying that you can do different things, but yeah, it's definitely an interesting practice that I am not well versed in, and something I want to try and get better at.
Absolutely. Yeah, because I think there's so much danger in just slapping things on sometimes.
And it's trying to identify that people use things in different ways, right? Like you go to the Trello board, you might instantly think I could drag that, so I'm going to try it, right? But then other people, adding in things like keyboard functionality, where you could shortcut with keyboards to do the same action. And that's actually kind of interesting to think about in terms of the drag and drop and talking about something like that. Let's say you wanted to implement drag and drop as well as keyboard shortcuts to do the same thing. Now with something like the CDK and the logic there, you could take something like NGRX and have a store and actions that dictate the move of one thing from one list to another, or reordering a list. And then both your drag and drop and your keyboard shortcuts could fire off that same action, and you could have the same logic backing of what it needs to do, but now offer different types of interfaces for the user to accomplish that same command, right?
It's so neat to think of using like ngAir for something like that, because usually I think of it for more like, I don't know, less fun tasks. Whenever it's involved with UI, I'm like, that's fun. And if it's not UI, I'm like, that's boring. So no, I love that. That's a really great idea, actually. I love that.
But also, going back to the whole UX discussion, the idea of saying, hey, you know what, as a user preference, that I would like to be able to turn off dragging and dropping. And I went through and searched for disable throughout there, and down at the end is a section where you can disable dragging. Now, granted, that is on an individual item, but there's nothing to say that that couldn't be applied on every item and every list to pull a global value to say, or a user setting to say, yeah, I don't really like dragging and dropping. That's not a behavior that I want. But if you're going to do that, then you have to provide other means of performing that functionality.
Right.
Yeah, and on the subject of turning it off, that's a great, concept to think about in terms of, we talked about mobile and the thought that like, if I got a to-do list and I want to scroll up and down it on my mobile, but also support dragging the location of the thing, you've got this, conflict in usage of how to deal with it.
You start scrolling and you can't get anywhere because you keep dragging something.
Right. And even another example, it's not drag and drop, but something I run into with just the scrolling on mobile is I look at like the ESPN app and I'm reading a story on that. And they have this concept of, as you scroll up through the story to get to the bottom, it will, as you hit the bottom, it automatically kicks you into the next story. Well, I tend to scroll as a user and kind of try and drag my content up into the screen and from there. And so I end up getting a scenario where I'm not done reading yet and I pulled up too far and all of a sudden the next article is up, right? And so it's like the use case of where mobile becomes just something different, right, at that scenario. And to be able to think about those sort of things and test those and try those out with your user experience in this process of thinking about that when you go to develop those solutions. It's a lot of things on the plate to figure out.
Lots of stuff to consider.
All right. Well, any other discussion on the drag and drop, or should we call it good?
Well, I think if we go into picks, mine is drag and drop related, because that article that I was just showing the GIFs from, it's way more than just showing off different use cases. It's called Drag and Drop for Design Systems. And it even goes through and it's like comparing like Gmail, Trello, and Chrome. And it's like, look which ones don't have a drag handle, look which ones don't have a drop shadow, things like that on the item that you're dragging and what that can mean to your user. And it goes even further into that. And so since we're having this like UX discussion, I think that's a really cool blog post that ties into our drag and drop. So I will send that link over.
I like that pick. That's a good pick. All right, is that your only pick? Do you want to pick anything else?
Yes, I'm good. That is it.
All right, Mike, do you have any picks?
I have no picks today. I'm pickless.
I call that the pickless wonder.
All right, Mike, I'll fill in for you with some picks.
Excellent. Thank you. Tell me which one was mine and I'll give it a thumbs up.
Well, I might only have one pick, so it can be yours.
Oh, come on. No, you've got to go with two, man. What cereal is your favorite? That can be your second pick.
I have two picks. And then I'll give my picks. And then at the end, Mike, you can claim whichever one you want to claim. Because I like both, so I'm good with whatever.
Multiple choice picks. I like this.
Okay, so my first pick is a couple of articles by Narwhal. There's one on Angular Ivy. And then there's one, oh my gosh, I forget the other one. The Angular Ivy one is really, really good. And a use case for custom elements or for Angular elements. So those two, I believe you can find those on the Narwhal blog. They're really good, insightful articles, as we all expect, right? I believe Victor wrote both of them, but really good. So check those out. And then my other pick is a gaming pick, and it's the video game Celeste. It's kind of like a platformer, challenging kind of like speed run sort of game. There's a pretty cool story along with it too, but you're basically going up these levels in this mountain and you've got to kind of do a side scroll platform thing and avoid obstacles. And it gets pretty frustrating because you have some real hard challenges that you got to clear through and do these combos of jumping and dashing and stuff like that. Real similar to Super Meat Boy. If anybody's ever played Super Meat Boy, there's certainly points where you just want to throw your controller at the TV, but overall it's pretty fun. So that's my other pick. So Mike, well, those are the picks I reported. Mike, which one was yours?
I'm actually going to go out on my own because I thought of one.
All right. Then I claim ownership of my two picks, and let's hear your pick.
There is a new blog post up on the Ionic blog from Max Lynch entitled "Build Your Next Design System with Web Components," which is just conceptually the idea of using raw web components to build a design system internally, externally, whatever your use case is, but to allow adoption and usage across multiple front-end frameworks or no framework. Just by using the raw technology of web components under the hood. But it also opens up the idea of extending what Ionic has already started for you and building upon that at the end of the article. Definitely an interesting read. Go check that out.
Very cool. All right. That's the picks. That's our content for the show. I think we're all done.
Oh, and also please go look at Mike's face on the tweet about this episode because it's like the best pick I've ever taken of Mike. Screenshot, I guess.
You gave me a heads up that it was happening.
Just a little context on that. Alyssa is so nice to every episode we have that she's around for. We'll take a picture of all of our faces and send out a tweet with this collage of all of our faces, usually in a pretty good position. So thank you, Alyssa, for that.
Oh, gosh. Sometimes it's so hard because we have some frowny guests on, and I'm like, the whole time I'm like, smile. But no, it's fun. And seriously,
next episode, I'm going totally stern and just no emotion.
I'm going to put that in our notes on being a guest on AngularAir that you're encouraged to smile at least
within the first 5 minutes.
Yeah, I like that even better.
The first 5 minutes of the show, just be smiley, like you're really glad to be there.
Remember, you're on camera.
Yeah, because otherwise your frown will live on in infamy. No, I'm kidding.
Option B.
Oh my gosh, Mike. Yeah, that's not obvious.
All right. Alyssa, thanks a ton for coming on and talking about this material. No pun intended. It just kind of came out. But thank you for CDK and stuff like that. We really appreciate you sharing your time and sharing your code. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys. This was fun.
All right. Have a good one. We'll see you next time. Later.